just how often do the plans you make become the things you do? Well, I guess we've become the channel of how not to travel. Not all the time, but a goodly bit. After all, we are a travel channel, and this is a trip we need to make. So let me give a little context. We're traveling back to Arizona because that's where our doctors are, as well as some really good friends. Yeah, we actually have a few good friends. And after all these years, we consider our doctors good friends too. Now, despite that, we would still be on the road, but regulations and best practices say that your physicians need to reevaluate you from time to time if they prescribe you medications, and as we get older, the majority of us will eventually end up needing some form of pharmaceutical. So we plan our travels around their visits. Depending on how you look at it, it can be an inconvenience or just another adventure. Well, here's where our luck comes in. May as well make it an adventure, because the winds of fate are always blowing, and they might just be blowing your way. Ours are this time. Because most of what we're doing on this trip has to do with those visits, we'll focus more on the trips than the poking and prodding our doctors will be up to. And with the current pandemic situation, it's just hard to get those big, beautiful smiles that we usually see. The flight to Arizona was uneventful, but for me, quick. Not as much for Shelly. 4.5 hours sitting is just tough on her back, and she is no fan of the Wright brothers. If you look closely, you can see that the Phoenix Valley is blanketed in smoke from both the California and Superstition wildland fires. It does make for beautiful sunsets, but how sad. We arrive in Phoenix no worse for the wear. Her dad picked us up at Sky Harbor, the Phoenix airport, and took us back to his place for dinner and a rest for the evening. The next day, we had the loan of his truck to get our exams out of the way, updating our prescriptions and giving us the okay to carry on. We spent the next evening with our friends Chuck and Carrie, had an opportunity to visit with some of their grown kids, and they took us back to the airport. We started that day at .30, that's 4:30 in the morning, to make the early flight out. This flight in particular, our selected air carrier has seating 3 abreast, an aisle, and 3 abreast, for you aviation buffs, an Airbus 380. My wife took the window seat, and I got the middle, and another gentleman had the aisle. His name is Trey, and he and I, struck up a conversation almost immediately. We had talked for the majority of the 4 hours about topics large and small, from his thinking about getting married, to how I knew my wife was the one, current issues to future plans, to our histories, and even about our channel OLT. How nice to find someone as nice and congenial as Trey in this big wide world. The miles melted away. We had a layover in Cleveland, which is where things began to fall apart. A thunderstorm rolled through, followed by a fog, which had us socked in for a few hours. Eventually the other aircraft landed, and we thought we'd be back on the way shortly. Not so much.
So it's 8:30 in the evening, and we're still at the terminal in Cleveland, waiting for our connecting flight to Orlando and back to the RV. Seems there was a problem with the aircraft that came in. May have been struck by lightning or something with a storm that had come through sometime during its landing, and now we're waiting for the replacement. So somebody's not happy. We'll see how things work out. We may get out of here sometime around midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. We're not sure. Everything's still up in the air. No offers from the airline yet for any compensation or any assistance. We'll see. Life happens.
As time wore on, it was now nearing 10 p.m. in our current time zone. The TSA closes the security checkpoints at 10, and you must be on the departure side or you miss your flight. Lots of children, including babies, were getting cranky and rambunctious, which wasn't a lot of fun for the adults either. Around 11 p.m., we got the announcement that a replacement aircraft was on its way from Orlando. At about 1:30 a.m., the plane arrived, and by 2 a.m., we had all boarded. Same seat, but a mom, toddler, and nursing baby right behind us. The baby bawled the whole flight. The toddler continually kicked the back of Shelly's seat. Now, a sharp-eyed flight attendant saw the looks on our faces and moved us forward away from the ruckus. Thank you, sweet lady. We landed at Orlando around 4 a.m. and got an Uber to the RV by 5 a.m. Yeah, we're gonna sleep for a couple of days.
Remember when we used to fly higher? When it was easier in the dark. But it's not time that's changing. Now it is you and me, babe. So stop pretending that we're not the cause.
I'd like to think that every trip is an adventure. Shelly called this one the trip from HE double lamppost. But we're back, and I'm glad you came along. I'm Chris, and my wife Shelly. We'll see you next week. Travel safe.